All right, so passive income life is the absolute dream life. Imagine having paychecks roll in every single day, every single week, and every single month to allow you to live life on your terms, not someone else's. In this episode, I'm gonna show you how to create passive income with little money. All right, so first I'm gonna talk about how I stumbled on passive income. Then I'm gonna talk about the steps I took to build this passive income machine that ultimately changed my life for the best. All right, so it's 2016. Me and my wife, we had just had our first baby, and we had just moved across the country from Fort Lee, Virginia, all the way to Colorado Springs. We bought a house and we were absolutely broke. I had a mortgage that was too large for my comfort. I was still working my Army officer job. I was working like 12 hours a day. But here's the thing, for someone that was working the amount of hours that I was working every single day, had a very small family, a very, meager house, like it wasn't a big house, it was a 3-bedroom, 2-bath house, and we could barely afford our expenses. Things weren't going too well. So I needed to make some additional incomes. I needed a side hustle. I needed passive income. So I started listening to podcasts. I started just educating and reading books, and I would get up early and I would stay up late and I would read and I would study, and I was just looking at what everybody else was doing that I was not doing. Like, I was successful in the military. I was going through the ranks really quick. I work hard. I get up early. I was in shape, eating right, drinking lots of water, like all the things I can control, but something wasn't working out. Like, my expenses every single month would outrun the paycheck. There would be more month left over than the paycheck, so that I would have to go days sometimes. We wouldn't have money in the account. So things were going kind of not the way I'd planned. I had a college education, a bachelor's degree. I had a real estate license. I owned rental properties. I was an Army officer, but I wasn't making ends meet. So I was kind of pretty much flat broke in 2016. And I stumbled on a podcast one day where a gentleman was talking about vacant raw land. He would buy this stuff overnight and he would flip it the next day and basically double his money. And I listened to this podcast, and I'd already been involved in real estate, but I had never, ever done a land deal. And something told me, this is what I was missing. This is where I was going wrong. This is where I had just missed out. And ultimately, I called the county treasurer. That's what we call it in Colorado. The county treasurer is the person that is in charge of making sure people pay their property taxes. And I was very interested in the list of people that were not paying their back taxes. They were not paying their taxes for that land. And that told me one thing, that they would be motivated to probably get rid of this land, because if they didn't care about paying their back taxes, they probably didn't care about the land. They weren't emotionally tied to it. It wasn't like a 3-bedroom, 2-bath home that they raised their family in and raised their kids in, and literally wrote on the walls how tall their children were as they were growing up. This was vacant raw land. There was nothing on it, so there was no emotional tie to it. So what I did was I sent a letter. I sent a letter to all the people on this entire list, and this letter was very simple. It said, "Hey, my name is Brent, and I'd like to buy your land on Main Street. If you're interested in an all-cash, fair price offer, please call or text me. God bless you." And I put my phone number. And guess what happened? The phone actually rang. It worked. It absolutely worked. So when I picked my playground, I picked the area that I was going to do it in, I got the list of hungry land sellers. They were motivated to talk to me. And then I sent them a list. And then I put a phone number on it, and I answered that phone, and I returned the voicemails as soon as possible, as my day would allow. Sometimes I would sneak to the bathroom so people wouldn't hear me making these phone calls. I would try and close my office door and people would knock on it. I would go on long extended lunch breaks and sit in my car and return calls. But let me tell you about that first land deal. It absolutely changed my life. It gave me proof of concept. It allowed me to believe that this is actually real. So that first land seller was so nice. He was a retired CPA, a certified public accountant. The guy was educated. He wasn't broke. He wasn't desperate. But guess what? He told me, he's like, "Brent, you can just buy the land for $285. It's yours. I haven't paid the back taxes on it for a couple years now. I'm possibly about to lose it. I don't really care. I traded it for tax work 20 years ago. I've been paying the taxes all these years. I don't care about it. It's not buildable." And that might shoot off a red flag for some people. It's not buildable. Well, I wanted to go and figure out why it wasn't buildable. So I drove to it, me, my wife, and my newborn baby on a Saturday, because I couldn't leave during the week. It was about an hour and a half away from my house. So we drove there and we sit on this land and we're like, this is amazingly, literally this would be a postcard I would send to someone about Colorado, because it's overlooking the Pike National Forest. But here's the major problem. The land was not buildable and I didn't know what it was worth. I didn't know what to do. Like I had no money, like $285 stuck in a piece of land. What if I can't get my money back? That's like groceries and diaper bills, right? And me and my wife were like debating this and like, we were so stressed out. I can't even believe we were stressed out over $285. And now sometimes we get that like 10 or 12 times a day from land notes. And I don't say that to brag, but I'm just saying that was where I was at in 2016 because I wasn't ready. I wasn't the same person then that I am now because we've been able to build this. Guys, I hope you're getting so much value out of this. Take this second now to hit that red subscribe button. I come out with these 5 days a week and let's keep going. How did I figure out what that land was worth? We're leaving, I'm a little depressed. Like we just saw this beautiful land, but I can't figure out a way to make this work. I don't have money to just sit in this piece of land. I need my money back now and I need to make money. Like this guy talking on this podcast is like doubling his money overnight. I saw it's literally as if God planted a real estate office for me at the bottom of that hill. And I called, and it's a Saturday, mind you, and someone answered, a nice, sweet real estate agent. I said, hey, I'm looking at this land on Lake Avenue. It's right down the street from you. It's in Palmer Lake, Colorado, and it's really close to your real estate office. And she said, yeah, I'm familiar with the street. I know why it's not buildable. What are your questions? I said, oh, great. Okay, so here's my only question. What could you sell it for? What could you list it on a multiple listing service? Basically what the multiple listing service is that the realtors have access to it. Other realtors can come and see stuff. People can see it on realtor.com and Zillow and Redfin and all these places. But I was like, what can you list it on the multiple listing service for me and get it sold quickly? Like, I mean, within like 30 days, like the get it done now price. Because, ma'am, I'm broke. I don't want my $285 stuck in this land very long. And she goes, Brent, I don't know about the get it done now price or a 30-day blowout price, like all these things you're talking about, like the price is right or something. But I believe you could sell it for $10,000. So I took in a deep breath. I thanked her for her time. I hung up with her, told her I'd call her back when I bought the property. Because that's all I knew. I knew I had to buy the property for her to list it for me, right? And I looked at my wife and I was like, you have no idea what she just told me we could sell this land for. $10,000. And my wife did not believe me. I didn't believe it. And I was sitting here telling my wife this. She did not believe me. Well, about that time, when she's not believing me, sitting there, my phone rings again. And it's the same kind realtor and goes, hey, Brent, you know, what if I bought it from you? Would you sell it to me? And I was like, yeah, I would sell it to you. What's your offer? She said, $5,000. I said, when can you close? She said, Wednesday. I was like, 4 days from now, Wednesday. She said, yes, Wednesday, 4 days from now, $5,000. I was like, great. I'm heading home. Here's my email address. Will you please send me a purchase agreement? So she did. Before I made it home, she had already had a contract for purchase in my email for $5,000. I didn't tell her what I was buying it for, and I was afraid that she might not pay me $5,000 if she knew what I was buying it for. Well, she got the contract. I signed it. I called my seller, and I said, hey, can I pay you on Tuesday? I've already found a buyer. He said, sure, no problem. I paid him on Tuesday. I got the paperwork. I got the deed. I drove it down to the land title insurance company on Tuesday. Wednesday, I drove back to the land title insurance company and picked up a certified check for $5,000, and I cashed that check. And then I went into my wife's office and I said, now do you believe me? She goes, well, it wasn't $10,000. So she was right about that. But the second deal, the second land deal had just come in that weekend as well. And I'm still communicating with this sweet lady. So her husband purchased this land many, many years ago. He was a stockbroker and he ended up picking up this piece of land that's 4 acres. Again, not buildable. It's bordered by state land, so like BLM or like national forest type stuff. So I knew that you had to trespass to get to the land, but I knew that in Colorado, you can work through those issues and get legal ingress and egress where you're allowed to access it legally. But I knew I didn't have the money to pay an attorney to do that. So what I did was I went home and there's this really cool website called Craigslist. And I took pictures of the land, and I may or may not have trespassed against state land to get those pictures. But I took pictures and I posted it on the internet on Craigslist, and I said 4.97 acres, will finance, $500 down, $400 a month. And I had a buyer that night. The next day he brought me $500 down. I got my money out of the property because I paid $500 for that piece of land. And this is where the passive income comes in. That $400 a month, 30 days later, I was now profitable. And guess what? Guess where I found the $500 from? It was from that first land deal that I bought for $285 and sold for $5,000. So now my land business is funding itself. So this is how I created passive income with next to no money. You know, it started with $285 and it turned into $5,000. minus 500 to pay for that next property, the second property, plus 500 when I got that $500 down payment for that second property, and then $400 a month. And this guy brought me the cash every single month. And some months he paid double. But this is where my mind shifted completely, a complete paradigm shift, as Stephen Covey would say, because that $400 a month changed my life. Because here's the thing, my truck payment was exactly $400 a month at that time. And then I had planned to do another one and another one and another one. My goal was to do one of these a week, because the next one was going to pay for our van payment, and the next one was going to pay for our gas bill, and the next one was going to pay for the electric, and the next one was going to, eventually we're going to have to maybe do a couple to pay for the mortgage payment of $1,000 a month. But here's the thing, that first one was $400. The mortgage payment was $1,000. So I just had to do 2.5 more of those to pay my mortgage payment. And before I knew it, 9 months later, I created a passive income off of no money hardly that was more than my monthly expenses. It took us 9 months to do that. And guess what? When you cover your monthly expenses that come in every single month, whether you work or not, that's passive income. And that gave me financial freedom. I stand before you saying that changed my life. Like, that allowed me to get out of the military. It allowed me to put in my packet to get out of the military. So I was no longer told where to be every single day, what time to be there, how long to be there, when I had to go deploy again, when I had to be in the field again. That was total life changing. It gave me financial freedom and time freedom and geography freedom, because it allowed me to move. I was talking to someone just a few minutes ago, and he asked me how often I go and look at this land. I would say I've done a little over 400 land deals, and I probably only looked at 40 of them. 40 parcels of land. And now I only look at the stuff that interests me or it's close by. So if you're interested in learning more about this, how to create passive income with little to no money, I want you to go right now. I want you to keep taking action, first of all, but I want you to go right now and do a land deal today. Go out there and do a land deal. And then once you do a land deal, I want you to head on over to thelandsharks.com, and I want you to fill out an application. I want you to schedule a call with my team, and let us show you how to explode your land business. That way you can create land notes that pay you every single day, multiple times a day. Head on over to thelandsharks.com, fill out the form, schedule a call. If we like what you got to say, we might even invite you into the coaching course.